Okay, we're going to take a look at a couple of videos and some still shots that I'll pull out of them to describe an application of the biology we're learning when we talk about genetics. During the summer, I worked for Wisconsin Crop Improvement Association inspecting corn for certified seed production. And the operation that goes on is that we're crossing different varieties in order to produce hybrids. We do the same thing with animals, and there's a reason we do it. It's because the progeny from creation of a hybrid normally is 10 to 30% larger or more productive than the purebred parents would be. This is true with cattle, and it's true with corn. So seed producers produce different crosses to create new varieties that are more productive than the old ones. In this case, we're going to be looking at corn that is being produced and certified as hybrid. And to do that, we're going to have to go into the field, and I'll show you how it's done and what we inspectors do to help the farmers to be as successful as possible. It makes their crop worth more money and produces a more consistent product that outproduces the alternatives. So we're going to walk into this field, which is 41 acres, and it is planted to one particular variety of corn that will be used for the female side of the cross, and another variety of corn that'll be used for the male side of the cross. And we're going to have to go to another video. I'm going to turn around so that the light is to my back and you'll be able to see what I want you to see better. Okay, so I've turned around, and from this angle you should be able to see that this row in the middle is a little bit darker colored. The way this is done is that there are 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 rows of one variety that's going to be used as a female, and 1 row of the variety that's going to be used for the male. So it's 1, 4, 1, 4, 1. There's a male row, there's a male row, there's a male row. And the way we can tell is that they're planted at different times, and there's a little difference in appearance. The male row is darker colored. It is also not as tall in this particular cross. It could be the other way around. In some crosses, they're taller than the female rows. At this point, of course, all of the plants in the field are dioecious, but there are 2 different genetic strains or varieties of plants in this field. We're going to use this variety as the female side. So what's going to be done is that when this corn starts to produce tassels, we're going to take off those male parts. We're going to detassel this corn. So what we're actually doing here is we're going to control the sexual reproduction in this field. And to do that, there's a couple of things that we have to be careful of. One is we don't want the male parts of this plant to fertilize these plants, because then we won't get the hybrid cross. What we want is for this variety that we're going to call the male plant to fertilize the female plants. So what we do is when these start to produce tassels, we come in with a machine and cut them right off. We cut that top off. And then we have people come behind to double check and make sure that every tassel is cut off of every stalk of corn. We leave the male to produce the pollen or sperm to fertilize the ears or the female parts of the corn. Now, excuse me. The other thing we have to do when we're inspecting is we have to look for rogues. These are genetically different plants that could occur. They could be in the bag of seed that the female came in. They could be in the bag of seed that the male came in. It's rare to get a bag of seed that's totally 100% pure genetically. But we want to make more seed of a specific cross that is as pure as possible. So we want to take anything that is a contaminant, that is, has different genes, out of these populations. So when this corn is about waist high, the farmer will send crews in here. They'll walk through these fields and they'll pull out every rogue plant. I'm going to let this run. I'm going to let this run so we can find one. And we will find one. And you notice as we walk across, we've got the darker male rows, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 female rows, and see another male row there. There you go. Okay. And you'll see the male rows are double planted, and the reason for that is because they'll plant it at a different time than they planted the female rows here. And then they'll come back maybe a week later, maybe longer, and plant again. So it could be side by side, or it could be inside the same row almost. But the idea there is that since it takes a certain number of days to get to maturity, some plants will come to maturity sooner than the others, so that the length of time that pollen is available will be extended, and we will get better fertilization of all of these kernels in the female plants. So let's move on and see if we can find a rogue to show you. It's going to be something that looks different. Everything looks pretty uniform, doesn't it? As these plants get taller, the rogues become more apparent. But we'll find one momentarily. You see there's something up here in this field, right up in here. We're going to go back to it in a second. That looks different. We're going to walk right up to it. I'm going to pause this for a minute. It's right up here. And it looks different. This is actually in a male row, I think. And it is different. It's genetically different. And when the crew comes through here, they're going to pull it out. Then the inspectors are going to come back and check this field and let the farmer know if his crew cleaned it up properly, whether there's still rogues in either the male or female rows, so that he can come back again, if need be, with a crew and finish cleaning up this corn. Because once we get to that point and we've got tassels developing on the male plants, and these, of course, these is the male, and these plants start to shed, we don't want anything that's not the right variety in this male row. And we've already hopefully removed all the rogues from the female row. So we try to control the genetics that way. And sort of reminds me of the stories from Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. In fact, I think the Canterbury Tales has the original Farmer's Daughter story in it. But anyway, this is what we're doing. So let's take a look a little bit more. We'll get a little bit closer. There we go. You see this corn plant is taller than those around it. So we're going to pull that one out. I'm not going to, but when the crew comes through here, they're going to go through this whole field and pull those things out. Now that's in the vernacular of the trade, that's called a rogue plant. It doesn't belong there. Well, how did it get there? It got there in the bag of seed because sometime in the past that the mother of that plant got fertilized by the wrong father. So let's take a look at something here. I've got it in my hand. This is some corn that I grew, and this is sweet corn. Doesn't look like sweet corn, does it? No. But it was sweet corn. And what happened was that I grew it in my garden close to Indian corn. And the Indian corn pollinated a bunch of my sweet corn, and that's why this looks more like Indian corn than sweet corn. But that's how rogues happen. Some pollen blew across the field and fertilized a seed in one of those ears of corn in the past that it wasn't supposed to. It got away with it. So another thing that is done is when we look at this field, and I'll go to another video to show you what I'm talking about with that. Just panning across this field so you can see the whole 41 acres. I had finished with it, and I had walked back up on top of the hill so you could get a panoramic view. I had to cross every row to inspect this field. And I'm going to stop it right there. You can see my car is way over here. So I walked on a diagonal all the way across this field up towards the other end. And then because this little hill was here, I just walked down the field to get to this high spot. So we've crossed the whole field, and then we'll come back after the crew has been through and detasseled it. Not detasseled, but we'll come back after the crew has taken the rogues out to ensure that all the rogues are out, and if they're not, we'll let the farmer know so he can pull them out, and then we'll look at it again. And then when it's detasseled, we'll come back and we'll start looking at this field every 3 days during the pollination phase. And we won't certify that this is a good field and has been completed until 95% of the silks are black. So once we know we have good fertilization, then the male rows will be shredded. They'll be mowed down and shredded so that the only thing which will be harvested in this field will be the female ears. Remember that if we were to leave the male rows in the field, they would have fertilized themselves, and the kernels or the seed produced in those rows of corn would not be the same as the kernels produced on the female plants. So we have to sacrifice the male rows in order to harvest what we hope to be as pure as it can possibly be, nearly 100% pure seed corn. Now, you can't really see it, but in the distance there's another field that is soybeans across the road, and there's no other cornfield within a mile of here. It's a long way away to another cornfield. So we didn't have to plant border rows of males to protect this these female corn from basically being fertilized by some foreign variety down the road. If we are close to another field of corn, which may be different, then the producer would plant 20 rows of male plants of that variety between the female plants in this field and the other field.